Ladies and gentlemen, this is the instructional video on graphing systems of linear inequalities. As you watch this instructional video, you'll learn how to graph a system of inequalities on a coordinate plane. You know you're successful when you're graphing a system of linear inequalities, when you show your work, when you graph the two inequalities, shade the solution area, and use a test point to verify your solution. Ladies and gentlemen, pause this instructional video. Make sure you have a ruler and graph paper, your notebook, of course, as well as a writing utensil. All right, take a moment to jot down these 5 steps to solve a system of inequalities. The first step is just simply to graph the first inequality on a coordinate plane. This may or may not mean that you might have to solve the inequality for y to get it into slope-intercept form. You might have to make a table if it's a vertical or a horizontal line. And then determine which half plane to shade using a test point. I strongly encourage you to graph each inequality and determine the shading separately. So then our third step is to graph the second inequality, and the fourth step is to determine which half plane to shade. I strongly discourage you from graphing both lines and then trying to figure out where what direction to shade. The last step is to shade the area that is double overlap to show the solution set. Make sure it's very clear if you're using colored pencils or highlighters or different colored pens, which area is the double overlapped area. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, if you have not yet done so, go ahead and pause the video, jot down the system. Make sure you have your graph paper and your ruler handy. Okay, I'm looking at the first inequality right here, and it appears to be in slope-intercept form. So from here I can pull out the slope, which is 1 over 1. The y-intercept is 4. I'm going to go ahead and begin graphing at 4. I'm going to rise 1, run 1 in a positive direction because I have a positive slope. I'm also going to go down 1, left 1 to get some points on the other side of the y-intercept. Okay, you'll notice that the inequality is greater than. That means I need to use a dotted line to connect these points. If you remember from an earlier video, I do not have the technology to draw a perfectly straight dotted line with a ruler, so you'll have to forgive me. Please be sure that you're using a ruler on your paper. Okay, so from here we have to determine which half plane to shade. So my favorite test point is 0, 0. So I'm going to test this inequality. Y is greater than x, plus 4, with the ordered pair 0, 0. So I plug 0 in for y, 0 in for x. So 0 is not greater than 4. That's false. So I'm going to shade away from 0, 0. Now what I'm going to be sure that I do here is I'm just going to use arrows at the moment to tell me the direction. I'm not going to grab my pen or my highlighter or my color pencils. I'm going to leave it like that, and I'll show you why I'm just leaving arrows in a moment after I graph my second inequality. All right, so now I have 2x plus 2y is less than 4. Let's see here. I think I have some room here. 2x plus 2y is less than 4. I'm going to get y by itself by subtracting 2x on both sides. And I get 2y is less than negative 2x plus 4. Divide both sides by 2. And I'll get y is less than negative 1x plus 2. Alright, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and I am going to begin plotting this. See here, I'm going to use a different color to help me color coordinate. My slope is negative 1 over 1. My y-intercept is 2. So I'm going to begin at 2. And because my slope's negative, I'm going to go down 1, right 1. Down 1, right 1. I'm going to go opposite to get some points on the left side of my y-intercept by going up 1 and left 1. Okay. Again, I have one of those inequalities that's just a less than, so I'm going to also need to use a dotted line for this inequality. Please be sure that you are using a ruler. Again, my technology does not allow me to draw a straight line. Okay. All right, now I have to determine which direction to shade. So again, 0, 0 is not on my red line, this point right here, so I'm going to use that as my test point. I'm running out of room here, ladies and gentlemen, so my work's a little bit all over the place. If you could make sure that your work's nice and neat, organized on your paper, that'll be better, because part of our grading system for precision is being able to communicate the arrival of your solution by showing your work neatly. So my apologies, I'm a little limited here. So I'm going to go back up here and use the ordered pair 0, 0 to verify. So 2 times 0 plus 2 times 0, I want to see if that's less than 4. So 0 plus 0, is that less than 4? So 0 is less than 4. 0 is less than 4, so that's true. So I'm going to shade toward 0, 0. Okay, now if it's not obvious, using the arrows, you might want to use a shading technique, but hopefully you can tell that the area that's double overlapped in shading is this quadrant or this portion of my graph right here. I can tell that because I have arrows from both inequalities pointing to that portion of the graph. Again, be very careful in determining or highlighting, I should say, your double overlapped area so that your teacher and yourself can still tell that your lines are dotted and not solid. All right, so the solution to this system is the area that is double overlapped that I have highlighted in yellow. All right, ladies and gentlemen, take a second to jot down this system. Make sure you have a piece of graph paper as well. I'm going to go ahead and start by graphing the first inequality. X is greater than or equal to 7. If you remember way back a long time ago, when we learned how to graph, we graphed vertical and horizontal lines using a table. And I know it's a vertical or horizontal line because there's only one variable. So I substitute my values 7 in for X, and then I select 3 values for Y. Okay, so I'm going to go over to the right. I'm going to find 7 on the X-axis and go down to -2 on the Y. 7, 0. This was a 0 here, even though it looks kind of goofy. It's right here. And then 7, 2 is right here. I have a greater than or equal to symbol. So that tells me I can use a straight line, which I do have that tool available for me on my technology here. Okay. Now I need to write down what my slope is and what my y-intercept is. So my slope is undefined. My y-intercept is none. So any vertical line will have a slope of undefined, and my line that I drew in does not intersect with the y-axis, so there is no y-intercept. I'm going to select my test point, 0, 0, because I only have one variable in my inequality. I only have to plug in 0 for x. So 0 is not greater than or equal to 7. That's false. So I'm going to shade away from the ordered pair 0, 0. In my last example, I used arrows to help you figure out the double overlapped region or the portion of the graph. In this example, I'll use a highlighter, so you can choose which system works best for you. My suggestion, if you're going to use a highlighting or color pencil or a pen situation, is to do your highlight very, very, very light. So I'm going to highlight that as light as I can. And then I'm going to make sure that my solution set is much darker so that my teacher knows what my answer is. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and look at my second inequality. 4x minus 8y is less than or equal to -16. I'm going to solve that for y by subtracting 4x from both sides. So I'll get -8y is less than or equal to -4x minus 16. Divide both sides by -8. Remember, when you divide by a negative, you need to flip or reverse the inequality symbol. So now I have y is greater than or equal to 1/2 x plus 2. Okay, so m is 1/2. My y-intercept is 2. So I'm going to begin at 2 And I'm going to rise 1 and run 2. Rise 1, run 2. Rise 1, run 2. I'll get some points in the opposite direction. Okay. Now at this point, I again, because I have greater than or equal to, can use a solid line to connect my points. So there they are. It's not a perfect line. My apologies. Not sure if it's a little low. So I'm going to put some arrows there. I'm going to use my my test point as 0, 0 again, so it's right here, to determine if I shade above or below. So I'm going to substitute the ordered pair 0, 0 into my original inequality. 4x minus 8y is less than or equal to negative 16. So 4 times 0 minus 8 times 0, I want to know if that's less than or equal to negative 16. 0 minus 0 is less than or equal to negative 16. So I get 0 is less than or equal to negative 16, which is false. So I'm going to shade away from 0, 0. All right, so I'm going to grab my highlighter. Let's see here, I'm going to pick a slightly different color. So I need to shade above the line. I'm going to try to do it really light. And hopefully when I use this highlighter technique, you can see that the area that's double overlapped in shading is this area right here. So I'm going to highlight that nice and dark. You could see that I had pink and yellow over there. That's the only portion of my coordinate plane that was double overlapped. So I'm going to make sure it's really clear that that's my double overlapped area by kind of darkening that in so my teacher knows that's the only spot that I need to be my solution set. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's your turn. Go ahead and grab some graph paper if you don't have enough. Solve these systems of inequalities in your notebook and graph them using graph paper. Check in with your teacher and you'll get your homework. Good luck.